Alright, so in a light tank, it's very easy to spot these guys coming across here. What I always do is just run this little ridge right here and then just turn around right about right there and then come back. That's more than enough to spot anybody that's coming up here. If your artillery's paying attention, they can get a free shot on them. And there's usually very little in the way of return fire that they can give to you. Otherwise, it's not really that important to play, you know, in the early game. I don't really feel like it's important to play over here. I think the first thing that you want to do is to clear this field area, or at least make it so that your team feels all right about it. Because there's not a whole lot that you're going to spot that over here that these guys are going to be able to do anything about anyway. And you're playing through this middle field here, which is not, in my opinion, a very solid play. It's very easy to get countered, especially since you have another light tank. He's like, hey, I want to see what that other light tank is doing. And again, the problem is that nobody's gonna get shots on that guy, right? But their team is getting shots on you. That's not the situation that you want. I mean, if you're getting critical intel, then all right, I'm down. But the intel that you got was, hey guys, at least one IS-6 is going to the city, and they're like, yeah, thanks, man. we probably could have guessed that. And again, you don't ever get good shots from here. I don't really feel like playing the center plateau at any point in any game is a good idea. I think you have a very different idea of firing angles than I do. And again, like even that CDC is lit back there, but as I was saying, there's nobody to shoot at him, which is why you don't really want to play out here. Everybody can shoot at you, everybody can spot you, but you can't really shoot at anything, and your team can't really shoot at anything you light. These are all significant limitations to playing a light tank. So both of your light tanks went out here, didn't really spot anything that was critical, got 0 assisted damage from being out there, and basically have spent the first 2 minutes of this game not really doing anything that a light tank could possibly do to contribute to the game. In the meantime, you guys are getting wrecked over here. And you're continuing to play here, which is not so good. He's got a little bit of a side profile that you can hit through there. So now these guys are up over here. Lol. I like landed on the back deck. This is not a good shot for you. Also, I recommend using the autoloader gun on the SPLC. So actually attacking through here is not necessarily the best thing. You can get to the backside of this Oho. Well, you don't even really need to. By basically playing through over here. And again, you don't want to be quite in the position that you're at. Like, you're depending on these guys having crappy crews when you shoot. That's not entirely the best thing to do. Again, you want to play to the strengths of your tank, and the strength of your tank is not really using the gun. It's just positioning yourself where you can create opportunities for your team to get some damage. Now, at least your guys are set up over here now, so they can get shots over on those guys. But like lighting these guys now becomes a little bit less relevant. Although your ISU can still potentially get shots. And it's the same thing. You just want to basically hang out. You basically want to hang out, try to keep tanks in this area, basically from this 455 to about 425 area. That's generally, as long as you have a reasonably good camo crew, that's fine. And this is reasonably good position for you now, although that ISU is going to come back. You're just guessing now. It's usually better if you don't know, just stop. So if you don't know, just leave your thing right there and then wait, leave it in front of him and then wait for him to come into it, or wait until you think he's about to come into it and then fire it so that your shell gets there as he comes into it. If you don't know if he's going back and forth, don't trace back and forth, because all you're doing is just increasing your own aim time. Just sit on one side or the other and wait for him to come through. Because see how you're wasting a lot of time there. And then he's gone. He gone. So you guys are engaged over on this other side. So you need to start thinking about how you can contribute to this game. And here comes said ISU. I wouldn't fire at that. Again, you're relying on him to have far too crappy of a crew. Because that was like 240 meters. That ain't gonna cut it. So again, you're sort of playing in this no man's land, and if you're going to do that, you need to play the numbers really, really solidly. And by that I mean the numbers of the range, right? You want to keep that guy at about 350 to 400. That's a different ISU. You are going to lose that side. And again, you've just spent far too much time kind of hanging out here. So you have the option now of, oh, okay, do I attack into 2 heavies or do I attack into a medium and a tank destroyer? I would have probably attacked into the medium and the tank destroyer just simply because you're always going to struggle against a heavy. Not entirely sure what you're doing. You spent most of your game in this middle here, and that's not really a solid place to play. You're basically waiting for your team to spot for you, and waiting for their team to drive into a situation where you could shoot them. And as we've said many, many times with these light tanks, the best feature of these light tanks is not the gun. This guy is in an area where you can potentially start shooting at him. And again, it's about controlling these distances. Depends on how good their crews are, whether they run optics in their tanks or not, which is why you'll notice that I run optics in almost every tank in the pub match. Looks like you're going after Artie, which is fine. It's not that big of a deal. But these guys they're hunting for you. And again, so this is a guy that you can shoot at if you come back far enough away from him. You can shoot him right now. And again, so you went to this bush, but this is a little bit overrated. You don't need this bush. What you need is some distance. Like, the bush doesn't actually help you once you fire. Technically speaking, now, see how he's behind this tree? Technically speaking, now, right, if you were closer, let's say that he actually had a good crew and or optics, right, then this tree actually can act as camo. But when you're firing, this bush does nothing for you. Does nothing for you. So don't forget that. Don't say, "Oh, I'm going to come into this bush and then now he won't be able to see me." No, that's not how it works. Lol, the Artie's like, "Don't hide behind me, dude." And again, all you really have to do is go to this high ground here, and you can get better shots on those guys if you want. But again, you have to remember that these guys are coming in through the back. You got to feel that timer coming in. So what you're doing is what I always say not to do. What you don't want to do, you don't want to close the gap. When you're the faster tank, with the camo on the move, with the view range, you don't want to close the gap. You want to make it so that they're as far away as possible. So they got to cross large open swaths in order to get at you. That's what you want. You don't want to close the gap. See, like, this is what you want. You want these guys in this butter zone, right? This guy's in perfect position for you to shoot. This guy's in perfect position where he can't really chase after you, right? So now you can just stop here in the butter zone and get that free damage. There's no reason for you to close the gap on anything. Everything that has a crappy crew, anybody who doesn't feel like it's worth investing in optics, you should just be able to abuse. And that's why it's the butter zone. You gotta understand that you're not gonna get that shot before the thing, so you need to back up so that you always gotta look at your reload. Okay, and then here's where you need to close the gap a little bit. You have time if you wanted to kill that KV-2, but you're gonna have to close the gap on this ISU. Unfortunately, there's just no way around it. There's just no way to play this this particular cap without being closed. So what you actually want to do is just come up straight underneath here, and then usually they're behind this building right here. So you come up straight underneath through here, and then come in through the back. You're not going to get any shots. But the good news is you know where he's at. So again, as we said, all you need to do is get a reset and then relocate. Right? Now the noose is closing, right? Because that KV2 is going to come around this side, the IS-6 is going to come around this side. So you got to decide how you want to. So you're playing it the I'm going to take a shot here, which is fine. It's not necessarily bad. Here's where you auto aim. This is what the auto aim is for, my man. No. So you're driving at this sort of oblique angle around him. Like you'll notice there was a situation earlier today, or if you look back, like we can go back and talk about, you know, closing the gap. When you're closing the gap on a reload, you want to just drive straight at him. Just straight at him. Unless you know that you can beat him to the outside, or you know that he's going to be reloaded before you get there, you want to drive straight at him. All you're doing by driving around here, you might as well just stop every so often and be like, okay, I'll give you a little bit of extra time to reload, and then stop. I'm going to give you a little bit of extra time to reload, because that's all you're doing by driving out here, is you're giving him a little bit of extra time to reload. And then auto aim, my man. Split 4. There we go. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, and then don't outrun your coverage here. And that'll happen. So the big problem that you had here is really you waited until your team died before you did anything as a light tank to help them. I really felt like you could have gotten some intel on these guys out in the field, and especially when they're trying to push some heavies across the field, you can get those guys wrecked. There's nothing that they can do about it. That position that they played through was not very good. Unfortunately, the position that your light tanks played through was not very good as well. And you'll notice, like, if you go back and look at this replay, you really did nothing in the first 2 minutes. Like, you really did nothing. Like, again, you lit this IS-6 that was going to the town, and your team was just like, yeah, gee, thanks. Nobody had any shots on him, right? There were no shots on him. You didn't get any shots from anything that you lit on the field until your guys got all the way up here, and then that T-29 came over. That's the only time. So you have to understand that that's not going to be really relevant in the early game, but you can get your guys some intel, especially when you see a light comp like this head out to this north area. This is where you lost most of your guys, right? You can at least get them some intel about what they're going to be up against, if not be able to help them counter it. After that, it's fine. Again, so much of the playing light tanks is controlling the distance and using that to your advantage, using your camo to your advantage. But you didn't really start playing this game until it was too late, unfortunately. And again, a lot of times it feels like light tank players are valuing their gun too much. Your gun is not that good. Like, nobody's really afraid of your gun. That's just, and that's the problem that we're going to run into a lot when we get up to the tier 10 lights. They're going to be just like, oh, I want to use my pew pew. And it's just like, look, I mean, the guns on the tier 10 light tanks, they're okay. I mean, they're not bad. But categorically, every single one of them is worse than every single medium tank. Every single one. Every single gun is worse than every single heavy tank. Every single gun is worse than every single tank destroyer. You get where I'm going with this. Like, you can use the gun. There's a reason why there's gun on the tank. But you should never feel that, oh, you know what I need to maximize? I need to maximize my gun. Because every single gun, every single player in this match, outside of the 12T and the T37, has a better gun than you. And you gotta sort of get that. And so while you want to use your gun when the occasion arises, the majority of your maneuvering is not, okay, I need to maneuver myself into a position where I can use my awesome firepower, because that's not really the strength of your tank. Unfortunately, your team got wrecked pretty hard on that north. I thought they were going to be able to win the city side, but they didn't. They weren't able to win that either. I'm not entirely sure how they lost that, but them's the breaks. It's difficult for you as a light tank to like just push in there and help them there. Again, you want to make your impact a little bit earlier, especially through early damage when you can. But you did reasonably well. Again, a couple of things is, when you're shooting at guys that are rocking back and forth, just aim at a point in front of them and wait for them to rock forward and then shoot them. Um, don't trace nearly as much as you did. I think people do that a little bit too. I think it's an odd behavior, but the reason why people trace, I think, is because they're too used to playing, games where you don't have this sort of reload, right? It's just click, 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 and so in that particular case, tracing helps because you're already going to be, following the guy. But in a game where you're waiting for your reload or waiting for your aim, you got to get used to this idea of, okay, I'm just going to aim where he's going to be at. That's what's important. Where is he going to be at? Not where is he right this instant. But you did pretty well. Again, as far as the light tanks are concerned, does not have a very good gun, but you did make the most of it. So, GG, nice try.